My name is Rosalind Petrosky. Everybody calls me Roz. I am 46 and I have cut hair in the same two-chair shop on Front Street in Carbon Hollow for 21 years. I know what this town is doing on a Sunday because I am the one they tell. Nobody has ever once thought to wonder what I do on one. On the second Saturday of October, my mother put on a 16th anniversary memorial for my father in the Carbon Hollow Fire Hall. 60 people. Folding chairs, ham loaf, a coffee urn that has been at every event in this town since 1988. In the middle of it, she set a typed page down on the paper tablecloth in front of me and a pen on top of it. Then she said it loud enough for the next table to hear. "Sign it, Rosalind. Your father's been dead 16 years. 16 years of being the one who would not say the sentence out loud, laid on a folding table between a pen and a plate of ham." I did not raise my voice. I have not raised my voice at that woman since 2009, and it has never once been worth it. I looked at the page for a second, and then I looked up and said, "Who handled the arrangements, Mom?" She had an answer ready. She has had one ready since I was 30. What she did not have ready was who was going to come through the fire hall door at 20 past 2. I am going to make you wait for that exactly as long as I waited. Welcome back to Thistlegate Estate, where the overlooked finally claim what's theirs. Petrosky's has 2 chairs, 1 sink, a dryer chair nobody has sat under since about 2011, and a cut glass dish on the counter that I keep full of wintergreen mints. 21 years. I have done first haircuts on boys who came back to me for their wedding day trim. I have done more than one woman's hair in a hospital room because she did not want to be seen in the state the chemo left her in. You learn a town's entire story 2 inches behind its ear. People tell a hairdresser things they will not tell a priest because a priest is going to have a feeling about it and I am going to keep going. Which is why I know better than anybody what I am about to tell you. A secret in a 2-chair shop is a wet towel. It does not stay folded. Carbon Hollow is in Mullen County, in the part of Pennsylvania where every third road is named after a mine that closed before I was born. 1,900 people. A fire hall, a legion, a diner out on 219, a Presbyterian church, and a Catholic one, and about 9 last names. My mother is Lorene Petrosky. She is 71, and she has run the ladies' auxiliary at that fire hall for 30 years, which in this town is a bigger job than mayor. Whatever she says in that kitchen is what happened. She can also lay a compliment on you that grows out in 6 weeks like a bad color and you do not notice until you catch yourself in a window. I have a sister, Charlene, who is 49 and does medical billing in Johnstown, and a brother, Denny, who is 43 and works at the Water Authority. Denny is a soft-hearted man who has never once in his life gone against his mother out loud. And I had a father, Emmett Petrosky. He drove a coal truck and then a fuel truck, and then he did not drive anything, and in the spring of 2009, after a fight I will tell you about, he left. What the family owns is the Quarry Road place, an old stone house my grandfather's people built, and 40 acres behind it that has not grown anything but scrub since 1974. The land is worthless. Everybody in my family has said that sentence at every holiday of my life. The land is worthless. Now one more thing about my week, and then I will get on with my mother because you need to meet her before this will land. Every other Sunday, I put the close sign up at noon and drive an hour and 10 minutes east. I have done it for 11 years. In 11 years, I have never explained it to one person in this town. Dot Kubiak is 80 and has had a standing Thursday at 10 since the first Bush administration. She decided a long time ago that I have a man over in Altoona, and she has told approximately everyone. I have never corrected her. 2 reasons. The truth was not mine to hand around. And a woman my age with a mystery is better for business than a woman my age without one. Tell me what town you are listening in, by the way. I would like to know how far this thing is reaching. The fight in 2009 was about the Quarry Road land, which is funny now in a way that is not funny at all. My father wanted to sign the 40 acres over to the 3 of us kids while he was alive, in thirds, done and finished. My mother wanted it left in the will where it belonged. It went on about 6 weeks, and it got ugly at the end. In April, he put a duffel bag in the truck and went to his brother's in Ohio. Then, his brother's wife put him out, and then nobody heard anything. 4 months. That is how long it took. In August of 2009, my mother told the ladies at the church that Emmett had passed in Youngstown. Complications, she said. No service, she said, because he had always been clear he did not want a fuss. And then, in October, she held one anyway at the fire hall because 16 ladies had already brought food, and there was nowhere to put it. Here is what I said at 30 years old, standing in that kitchen with a tray of ham loaf in my hands. I said, "Mom, has anybody actually seen anything? Because we don't actually know that." That is the whole of my crime. That sentence. My mother did not speak to me for 8 months. Not one word, in a town of 1,900 people where we passed each other at the post office. Charlene told me at the time that I had humiliated her in front of her church. Denny told me I should apologize even if I was right, which is the most Denny sentence ever constructed. I did not sign the memorial book that day. It sat on a card table by the door with a pen on a string. I walked past it twice, and people noticed, and people still bring it up. There was no death certificate. There was never any paper at all. My mother never filed anything. She never opened an estate and never claimed $1 of his pension from the union. For 16 years, not one person thought that was strange because there was nothing to think it about. A man in this county can be dead in every way that counts, in the church and the auxiliary and the Christmas card list, without a single line of it ever touching a courthouse. Hold on to that because it is the whole machine. The lie cost nothing at all for 16 years. It only got expensive the day somebody needed it in writing. That is rung one. 16 years of being the daughter who would not say it. I want you to sit in that with me for a minute before it starts costing money, because for the first 4 years, it did not cost anybody a dime. It only cost me my name and my own family. Rung 2 came in 2013, and it is the one that got used at the end. When I opened the shop in 2004, I was 25 and I had nothing. The credit union would not touch me on my own. No assets, no co-borrower, and 2 years of tax returns that would have embarrassed a paper route. My father co-signed. That is the entire extent of it. He signed a line on a loan application. He never put $1 in, and there was never $1 to put. I made every payment on that loan myself for 7 years, and I have the statements. In 2011, I paid the balance 3 years early with money I made standing up, and the credit union sent me a payoff letter and a release of the lien on my equipment. Both of them are in a folder in my back room with my business license. Nobody in my family has ever asked to see that folder, not once in 14 years. But in 2013 at Christmas, in my mother's front room, with Denny's kids on the floor, Charlene said to the room, "Well, Roz already got hers. Dad bought her that shop." I said that was not what happened. And my mother said, without looking up from the dish she was drying, "Rosalind, let's not. Let's not." That was 2013, and it was one sentence at one Christmas. It took 12 more years for that sentence to be worth $186,000. Rung 3 is 2019, and this is the one that still gets me in the chest. My mother had her hip done in March of that year. Somebody had to be there. Charlene had work and her own kids. Denny had his shifts, and I own my own business, which in a family means I do not have a job. There is one line from that spring I want you to have it because by then it had become a family fixture. We were at the kitchen table working out who could take which days, and Charlene said it, laughing the way you say a thing everybody has already agreed is funny. She said, "Well, Roz can't do Sundays. Roz has Altoona." Everybody laughed. I laughed too. Then I got up and put the kettle on, and I took every other day there was. I closed the shop for 9 days. 9 days is real money in a 2-chair shop. I slept on her couch, I did her compression stockings, I washed her hair in her kitchen sink with a cup because she would not have a home health aide in the house. I cut her toenails. I want you to know I would do it again. That Christmas, in the same front room, my mother stood up with her cider and thanked Charlene, by name, for carrying this family through a hard year. I did not say anything. I have gotten very good at not saying anything, and I would like you to know that it is not a virtue. It is a callous. If you have ever been the one member of a family who would not repeat the agreed-on sentence, you know it is not that they punish you for it. It would be easier if they punished you. What they do is quietly rearrange the story so that everything you did belongs to somebody else, And after enough years, you start to wonder if you remember your own life right. Comment, I said something, if you were ever the one who would not go along. And there is a piece of that same Christmas I need to put down here. Charlene had come to the shop that morning to borrow my mirror and my flat iron before dinner. She went in the till drawer looking for a bobby pin, and she found a photograph. A 4x6 from the drugstore. My father in a blue shirt in a chair by a window, looking a little to the left of the camera. She said, "Oh my God, where did you get this? Mom has never seen this one." I said it was an old one from a fishing trip. She took it home with her. I let her. Rung 4 is April of this year, and it moves fast. A man named Ray Sturgill came up the quarry road in a clean white truck. Landman for a gas company. Here is what he had come to say. I had to have it explained to me twice by two different people before it went in. In 1911, the coal company that owned everything in this valley sold the surface of that ground to my great-grandfather and kept what was underneath. That is called a severed estate, and half the deeds in Mullen County have one in them somewhere. In 1968, the coal company was dissolved, and its assets got scattered through 3 bankruptcies. In 1974, a quiet little quitclaim put the mineral estate back together with the surface, and my grandfather signed for it and stuck the deed in a drawer and never mentioned it to anybody. In 1974, the gas under Mullen County was worth exactly nothing. It is not 1974 anymore. Ray Sturgill's title search turned up 40 acres with clean title and one problem on it. There were 2 names on that deed, Emmett J. Petrosky and Lorene M. Petrosky, husband and wife. The bonus was $186,000, and there was a royalty after that. The company's attorneys were not going to release $1 of it into an escrow account until somebody accounted for the man whose name came first. My mother did not tell me. I found out on a Tuesday from Dot Kubiak in my own chair with a comb in my hand because Dot's granddaughter works at the bank. There was a family meeting at the Quarry Roadhouse on a Sunday afternoon in May. Charlene Denny, my mother, and Arthur Fenn, who has been the lawyer in this county for 40 years. I was not called. Charlene called me afterward, and she was kind about it, which is somehow worse. She said the bonus would go 3 ways to Mom, and her and Denny, and that Mom felt Roz had already been taken care of because of the shop. She said Mom wanted me at the memorial anyway. She said, "She wants it to be nice, Roz." And in September, 3 weeks before the memorial, Dot Kubiak sat down in my chair with news. Her nephew drives a delivery route out past Braddock Springs, and he would swear on a stack of Bibles that he saw my Corolla in the lot at Fairlawn. I said I visit a client's mother out there sometimes. Dot said, and asked me to go a little shorter over the ears. So I said yes, I would come to the memorial. I want you to understand something before we go into that fire hall. When I said yes, I still had no idea what she was going to ask me to do at it. The fire hall on the second Saturday of October smelled like coffee and sterno and wet leaves off 60 coats. They had done it properly. Folding chairs set out in rows, the good tablecloths, a sheet cake from the IGA. My mother had on the navy dress she wears to funerals and to the fair. And on an easel by the door, blown up to 16 by 20 in a wood frame, was the photograph. My father, in a blue shirt in a chair by a window, looking a little to the left of the camera. Charlene came over and squeezed my arm and said, "Isn't it a good one? I found it. Mom cried." Beside the easel on a card table was a sign-in book with a pen on a string. After 16 years, my hand still did not want to touch it. Dot Kubiak signed it. The ladies' auxiliary signed it. Denny signed it and did not look at me. Around 1:30, my mother stood up and said a few words about the man she married in 1974. Charlene cried loud and finished in about 4 minutes, which is roughly how long it takes to dry a fringe. Then people ate. And a little before 2 minutes, my mother came down the length of that room with Arthur Fenn behind her carrying a folder. She sat down across from me at table 4. Arthur put 2 pages on the paper tablecloth and turned them around so they faced me. The top one was an affidavit of death and heirship. It said, in the flat way those things say it, that Emmett J. Petrosky of Mullen County died on or about the 11th of August 2009 at Youngstown, Ohio, and that the person swearing it had personal knowledge of the facts stated. Under it was a family settlement agreement dividing a lease bonus 3 ways. Arthur Fenn had a notary stamp in his shirt pocket. He is a decent enough old man, and he could not quite look at me either, and I have thought about that a great deal since. Let me hold that fire hall right where it is for a second, because the thing I need you to understand is that my mother did not do this in a lawyer's office. She did it at table 4 in a room with 60 people in it on purpose. In this family, a room is how you win. You do not argue with Lorene Petrosky in front of the auxiliary. You go along because going along is what the room is for. She had thought about it. She had put me at a table near the middle so that the people who would notice were close enough to notice. My mother said, "Rosalind, we need yours." I said, "Mine what?" She said, "Everyone signed. Charlene Denny me. Arthur needs the children's." And then she set the pen down on top of the page, and she said it loud enough for table 5 and the coffee urn and the ladies clearing plates. "Sign it, Rosalind. Your father's been dead 16 years. I looked down at that page for what felt like a long time and was probably 4 seconds. 16 years is long enough for a lie to set. A lie that old is a perm. You can grow it out. You cannot wash it out. I did not raise my voice. I put my hand flat on the tablecloth beside the pen, and I said, "Who handled the arrangements, Mom?" She did not blink. "Your uncle handled it in Ohio. Uncle Stan died in 2016. "That's right," she said. "So there's nobody to ask, is there?" And she smiled at me, and it was not even cruel. That is the part I cannot get people to understand about my mother. There was no malice in it at all. She made a decision in a church basement in 2009, and she has maintained it every day since, the same as you maintain a roof. By this October, it was simply the truth, and I was a woman being difficult about a paper at a nice luncheon. Denny looked at the floor. Charlene said, "Roz, come on." I said, "I'm not going to sign that." Table 5 had gone quiet. That is the thing about doing it in a room. A room cuts both ways, and my mother had never once had it cut the other way on her. Dot Kubiak was 2 tables over with a coffee cup halfway up and not drinking out of it. Ray Sturgill was not there that day, and I have wondered since how it would have gone if he had been. Nobody said anything for about a second and a half. Then the auxiliary started clearing plates again, because that is what a fire hall does with a silence. My mother put the cap back on the pen and stood up and said to Arthur Fenn, "Not to me, she's always been like this." Then she went and got the coffee urn going for the second round, because there were 60 people to feed. I got in my car at 2:10, and I did not drive home. I drove east. Fairlawn Residential Care is in Braddock Springs, an hour and 10 minutes east on a road with a Dollar General, a car wash, and then nothing. I have been signing that visitor log every other Sunday since November of 2014. There is not a thing hidden about it, and I need you to hear that. It is a spiral book on a counter. My name is in it in my own handwriting about 280 times, and anybody on earth could have walked in and turned back one page. In November of 2014, my shop phone rang at 8 in the morning. It was a hospital in Cambria County. They had a 63-year-old man with a bleed on the brain and no next of kin they could raise. In his wallet, folded into eighths and gone soft, was a business card for Petrosky's Front Street, Carbon Hollow. I had set those cards out on the counter in 2004. He took one the week I opened and he had been carrying it for 10 years, 5 of which he had spent dead as far as my whole family was concerned. He could not talk for the first 11 weeks. When he could, the first full sentence he got out was to ask me not to tell them. I fought him about it, and I want that on the record because I am not the saint of this story. I fought him for the better part of a year. He would shut his eyes and wait me out, and a man who has had a stroke can wait longer than you can push. Then one day, in the fall of 2015, he told me why, and I stopped asking. In 2011, he had been at a shelter in Youngstown, and he had gotten to a phone, and he had called the house on Quarry Road. My mother answered. He said her name, and she said, "Emmett, we buried you." She hung up. He did not call again. By the time I found him 3 years later, he had built his whole remaining life around the fact that his family had agreed to it, and not one of them had come. He was not going to knock on that door twice, so I did not tell them. 11 years. Every other Sunday, an hour and 10 minutes each way, and a bag of wintergreen mints, which are the only thing he has ever asked me to bring. The state rate covers most of Fairlawn. It does not cover all of it. The difference is $247 a month, and I have paid it since 2015 out of a two-chair shop. If you have ever kept something for somebody because they asked you to, you know it does not feel noble at the time. It feels like carrying a bag. And every year, the bag gets a little heavier because every year there are more people you have not told. I got there that Saturday at 3:20, still in my funeral clothes. He knew before I opened my mouth. He is slow now, not stupid. He looked at the black dress and he said, "Whose?" I said, "Yours." And my father laughed. It is not a good sound anymore, but it was a laugh and it went on for a while. Then I asked him, "Here is the part I did not expect, and it is the reason this is a story instead of an errand." He said no. He said it flat, with the one hand he can still use palm down on the blanket. "No!" I told him about the mineral estate and the $186,000 and the affidavit and the pen on the paper tablecloth. He listened to every word of it and said no again. He said, "Let her have it." We sat there a while. I want to be honest about what I said next, because it was not noble either. I did not appeal to his dignity. I said, "Denny doesn't know." And my father, who had let 16 years go by, put his hand over his eyes. Because that was the thing neither of us had let ourselves look at straight. My mother lied. But I kept it. And a 43-year-old man at the Water Authority in Carbon Hollow had gone to his own father's memorial twice, and stood there and signed the book both times, and I had let him. Let me say this to the women my age listening. The ones holding something for somebody who asked you to hold it. There is a difference between keeping a confidence and keeping a secret. A confidence has one person in it. A secret has everybody who does not know it, and you are the one deciding for all of them, and nobody elected you. I held that bag for 11 years, telling myself it was loyalty. Some of it was. Some of it was that I could not stand to be wrong in front of my mother twice. He said yes on the Tuesday. Then it turned out that yes was not enough, and this is where I nearly lost it. Yvette Marchand is the social worker at Fairlawn, and she has been good to us for 11 years. She sat me down in the office off the day room. Fairlawn does not load a resident into a van for a public event on a daughter's word. There is a transport policy, there is a physician's clearance, and the family member of record for Emmett Petrosky on every document in that building is his wife. His wife. Yvette said Roz he has capacity. He is the only person in this building who can authorize this. She slid the desk phone toward me. It has to be him. Out loud. My father's speech on a good day is 4 words at a time, and then a long wait. It took him 11 minutes to say a sentence and a half to a nurse manager on a speakerphone. My mother had already booked the hall again for the following Saturday. Same room, same coffee urn, to sign the last of it and settle the lease because the auxiliary had it anyway. Neither of us slept much that week. They were all there again, which I did not expect, and my mother had arranged on purpose because in this family, a room is how you win. Maybe 40 this time instead of 60. The auxiliary, Dot Kubiak in the second row with her handbag on her knees. Denny and Charlene. Arthur Fenn with his folder and his notary stamp. Ray Sturgill in a good jacket, down from the regional office because a $186,000 bonus does not get signed without the landman in the room. The easel was still up by the door with my father's photograph on it. Nobody had taken it down all week. My mother had the affidavit out on the same table. She said, "Rosalind, we are going to do this properly this time." Now let me slow this down because the next 4 minutes took 11 years to arrive. At 2:20, the fire hall door opened. Yvette Marchand backed through it, pulling a wheelchair the way you do when there is a lip on a doorway, and then she turned it around into the room. My father is 74. He has lost about 60 pounds since anybody in that room saw him. His left hand does not work, and his mouth pulls down on that side. He was wearing a blue shirt because it is the only good shirt he owns, and it is the same one. Dot Kubiak said, "Oh!" out loud and put her hand over her mouth. Nobody else made a sound. 40 people in a fire hall, and I could hear the coffee urn. My mother stood up so fast her chair went over backward, and she said one word. She said no. And my father said from the chair, in the 4 words at a time way that is all he has now, with a long wait in the middle where everybody had to stand there and hold it with him, "Lorene, I called you." And then, in 2011, from Youngstown. That was it. That was the whole thing. 2 sentences and a name from a man in a wheelchair, and there was nothing in the world Lorene Petrosky could do with a room after that. I picked the pen up off the affidavit, and I want you to know my hand was not steady. I said, "Last Saturday, you told me to sign it because he'd been dead 16 years. I said, "Say it again, Mom. He's right there. Say it to him." She did not say anything. She sat down on a folding chair in the second row, which was not even her chair. She put her hands in her lap and looked at the floor. That is the last time I ever saw my mother in charge of a room. Here is what came of it, and I am going to lay it out flat because I have no use for a story where the wronged woman gets a feeling instead of an outcome. The affidavit of death and heirship is a sworn instrument. Charlene and Denny had already signed theirs, and Arthur Fenn had already notarized them. Swearing to something you know is false swearing, and it is a criminal matter in this state, and using the instrument to move property is obtaining property by false pretenses. The district attorney charged my mother. He did not charge Denny or Charlene. I want that on the record because I asked him not to, and I have no idea whether it made any difference. They believed it. A person who repeats what their mother told them for 16 years is not a criminal. They are a casualty. Arthur Fenn surrendered his notary commission before anybody asked him to and withdrew from the estate matter the same afternoon. He is 78. On the fire hall steps, he told me he had known my father since they were boys and that he had not looked at the date on that affidavit as carefully as a man ought to. I believe him. It does not help. Ray Sturgill was on the phone in the parking lot before the chairs were folded. His title company pulled the lease inside 4 days. You cannot pay a bonus on a mineral estate when a record owner turns out to be alive, uninvolved, and represented by nobody. The $186,000 went away. It has not come back. And the Quarry Road place could not be sold at all because my mother had been selling a dead man's half, and there is no dead man. They were never divorced. Everything she had been doing for 16 years, she had been doing as somebody's wife, not somebody's widow, and the difference turned out to be the whole ball game. Emmett Petrosky is alive, and he has capacity, and in that fire hall, when Yvette asked him in front of everybody where he would like his mail sent, he said one word. He said my name. There was a question about guardianship for about a week because a wife comes first in the line, and they were never divorced. It went away when the county solicitor read what he had said in that fire hall. A man who can name what he wants does not need a guardian. He needs somebody to drive him. The union pension started again in December in his own name, into his own account, for the first time since 2009. There is one more piece, and it landed on me about an hour later, standing by the door while the auxiliary stacked chairs. The photograph on the easel, the blue shirt, the chair, the window. I took that picture. I took it at Fairlawn in the spring of 2019 on my phone in the day room with the window behind him going white the way it does out there at 4 in the afternoon. I had it printed at the drugstore in Carbon Hollow for $4, and I kept it in my till drawer. Charlene found it looking for a bobby pin. I told her it was from a fishing trip, and she had it enlarged to 16 by 20 and put it on an easel at his memorial. My father presided over both of his own funerals from a photograph taken 10 years after he supposedly died by the daughter they cut out in a room where nobody asked where it came from. It is spring now. He is still at Fairlawn because a 2-chair shop and a story and a half on Front Street cannot do what a nursing facility does, and we are both grown-ups about it. I go Sundays. Every Sunday now, not every other, and I do not put the close sign up early anymore because there is nothing to be quiet about. Denny comes with me about twice a month. He does not say much on the drive. The first time he sat in that day room and cried for a while, and then he asked our father what he wanted for his birthday. That is exactly the right question, and I would not have thought of it. Denny has not really forgiven me, and he should not have to yet. That is mine to carry, and it is going to take a while, and I would rather tell you that than pretend the ending is tidier than it is. Charlene calls on Sundays. My mother has not spoken to me since October, which is the 8th longest silence of my life, and I have stopped counting them. If you have ever kept a secret because somebody you love asked you to go and look honestly at the list of people you are keeping it from, write their names down. It is a longer list than you think, and every one of them is a person you are making a decision for. I have told you all of it now, right down to the mints. If you want the next one, I will be here, same chair, same dish on the counter.